Yes,
Assalamu
it is.
alaikum. Good evening, everybody, and sorry for the delay. So welcome to our last workshop in this semester. We saved the best for the last one here. This workshop, yeah, it's gonna be about tips for providing feedback on students' writing, presented by Mr. Wayne Chvestuik, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes, yes.
All right, so let me introduce you. Mr. Wayne holds a master's degree in French language and literature and a master's in teaching of English to speakers of other language. He has accumulated more than 25 years of experience in the classroom. He is a passionate language learner who is particularly interested in etymology, the role of first language interference in second language learning, and all aspects of academic writing in English, especially those which pose the greatest challenge to students of the ELI. So, Mr. Wayne, the floor is yours. You may start now.
Well, the virtual floor. Yes, okay. I think we can finally begin. We're about the technical problems were more challenging than the writing problems or the preparation of the slides. So yeah, 25 years and 25 years of correcting students' writing. So I have a few issues I'd like to talk about. So yeah, that's the title. That's the official title. I don't know how much the content will reflect the title. I think I've gone a little bit off topic, and all of you know how dangerous that is when our students do that, especially when they have been given a specific topic to write about. But my mind started to wander, and well, just as the minds of our students do. So, but perhaps it's not, it's better because that there are many aspects to this topic, and I didn't want to really make it, I didn't want to just give you a list of to-dos. So let me move on to my first slide. And if I can do that without difficulty, can I do that? How do I change my slide? There it is. It automatically changed. Okay, just before we really delve into the matter, just a preface of sorts. I really want this to be a conversation or a discussion. And I want you to, I want this to be an exchange. In spite of my years of experience, my familiarity with the topic, I really don't consider myself an expert. It's not my area of specialization. I've just acquired experience, but some of you may have just as much experience as I do, or maybe even more. So, I don't want to preach. You are as, experienced as I am. So perhaps I can, well, I shouldn't say perhaps, certainly I will learn something from you. Or something you might say might cause me to reflect on what I've considered to be important, or, so it's not a lecture. I mean, if I don't have a PhD in writing written corrective feedback. I mean, if I did, well, then perhaps I could give you a lecture, but I wouldn't even attempt to now. So it's really going to be a series of questions about the whole process. And I think that will serve as the springboard, as the basis. And we'll talk about various aspects of giving written feedback, the pros and the cons of certain methods. And of course, in particular, I want to reference our students here. I don't want to, speak in the abstract or about students who are enrolled at a university in that doesn't exist, in a university EFL program that doesn't exist. I want us to think about the situation that we encounter, and not only in the ELI, but from my recent experience teaching science students at the ELI. Okay, so let's, having said that, let's move on to really the basis, the point of departure. So let me see, can I go to number 2, or can that be, can I control this, or? How do we move on to number 2? No, that's number 3. There it is. I don't have control. It's my virtual assistant. Okay. Well, first of all, it's really a word of technical jargon that we use. Like, it's the popular term now, feedback. Why do we use the word feedback? It's like, and I even did an Arab, I mean, some of the Arabic speakers would be better able to answer this than I am, but I did a quick translation on Google, and you know what I got? I got literally feedback, like feed again in Arabic. So I don't know, what is feedback? Do I have to do something to get to unmute people, or is everyone unmuted? Because there can't be a conversation without unmuted microphones. I've heard Kamal and yes, no. Are we all, or yeah, okay. Information about the task, evaluating and commenting. Okay, there we go. Now I'm seeing comments. Yeah, evaluating and commenting. Yeah, it's right. I think those are those are the two critical components. It's not just, of course, it's the evaluating, number 1. Is this correct? And then commenting. Yeah. And of course, in actuality, we neglect the commenting. We emphasize the evaluating. Let me see if I can see your complete. Okay, good now. Yeah, what they have done wrong. Yeah. Yeah, guide, right, yeah. But okay, let me come back to this word feedback, first of all. You know, it was borrowed from science. I mean, it was a scientific term back in the, I think I did because I'm interested in etymology. It was borrowed from science back in the 1920s. And then it was, well, it was borrowed into psychology. You know, like a psychologist gives the patient feedback when he's sitting there, I don't know, on the couch, talking about his problems. And now it's used in language learning and in general. Yeah, you know, we return in a certain sense. Yeah, we return what the student has provided us and we alter it a bit, we correct it. But why don't we just say correcting anymore? You know, that's like, yeah, that's another question I'd like to pose. Like, why don't we just say correcting? We provide correction. Would anyone like to? The right track. Yeah, I mean, like, why don't we say that? Yeah, I mean, it's wrong. And usually when we say correcting, it's 100% wrong. And there's not much the person can do but change it to what is 100% correct. Right? There's very little discussion. Yeah. So really, I mean, correcting is a part of the feedback process, but it's only one step or one aspect of it. Yeah. Right. And there's no, right, we're not providing recommendations of how the person can avoid this incorrect form in the future. Yeah, it's a more inclusive term. Right. And it entails the student taking some action. Right. Yes. The student should, well, ideally the student should learn from the feedback. It's more of a process than the end result or the, right. Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit, it's sort of jargon, but I can, you know, the implicit meaning is that it's a process and we're engaging the student. So yeah, I think it's appropriate. I mean, it's the term that's, you know, it means a lot more than just correcting. So, okay, there we have the feedback. By the way, can anyone provide me with a good Arabic translation of feedback? If you write in, but write in Roman letters, Latin letters. Because what I saw was giving food again. And I know, or would you just use a simple word like correction, or any of my Arabic, the Arabic speakers in the audience? I mean, it's a technical, well, it's a psychological, linguistic term. Yeah, feeding back. Ah, but can you write it in Rowan? Can you write it in Roman letters? In Latin letters? Talik. Talik. Okay, well, there we have it. Yeah, sometimes I ask my students these questions too. So, you know, like, by the way, do you know the Arabic word for that? Tagi, yeah. Yeah, Regia. Yeah. Okay, well, okay. It's jargon. I have a dictionary of linguistic terms in Arabic, but I didn't find it. Okay, different various ways. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Moving on after discussion of semantics discussion. Why do we provide it? What's the simplest reason? Like, why? For what reason? I know we love doing it. Yeah. It's helped this to help the students develop their English because their languages is at level 2, and we want them to proceed to level 3 or 4. Yeah, of course. And but I'm thinking of the most fundamental. Yeah, of course. But I'm thinking of the most fundamental. Um, Yeah, so they don't make those mistakes again, and especially so that they don't fossilize. And then the mistakes will be much more difficult to remedy. Yeah, improve. Yeah, but everyone is so idealistic. It's like it's for the students, it's for their benefit. But at the basis, it's our job, right? It's like in our job description. This is what an EFL instructor at King Abdulaziz University does when he teaches or when she teaches writing, academic writing. It's part of the job description, right? I mean, it doesn't specifically say that in the contract, but of course, yeah, it's our job. Yeah. So, whoops, can we go back to yeah, right? Yes, you agree, right? It's your job. And if you don't do it, I mean, look, I mean, even, what is that, the famous phrase, from the blackboard writing, instructors are required to provide meaningful feedback. You see? So there it is. Would you, yeah, so it's a part of it's what we do. Yeah. So, and of course, yes, so they improve, so um, their level, their proficiency, their level of competence, their level of proficiency rises. So they write better English, standard English, right? And so that the mistakes that they have been making don't become fossilized. Okay, so, and then I move on to my next, well, who should do this and who normally does it? And like, of course, it's the teacher, right? The teacher. It's our, I mean, however, even I've encountered some students who've lived abroad for a number of years, or who even who attended an English language medium school, and their spoken English is really exceptional, and they may even have like an American accent. But you know what? However well they speak, or however authentically they speak, always the writing, always the writing. And we are the experts in that matter. So we are the ones who should and normally do. And it's in our job description. So I have no problem about that. I mean, we have to acknowledge our expertise in this matter. I mean, yeah, instructor, we're the instructors. We're the experts. Now, that moves us on to number 4. Okay, we are the experts. We've, in graduate school, we learned about providing corrective written feedback and all of that. But Are we the only ones who can do it? Who else? Is there anyone else in the classroom? Or are we unique? Are we unique? It's a way of life. Providing feedback. Yeah, that's right. They really can. Yeah, they really can. Yeah. And of course, it depends on the level. It depends on the relationship between classmates. It's not always easy. Yes, absolutely. There can be peer feedback. Usually, it has to be very well planned. Um, and I mean that, yeah, that, and the teacher, the instructor has to provide guidelines. It can't just be, okay, exchange your papers and find some mistakes. It usually doesn't work very well. And some students may be reluctant to criticize other students and da 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 da. But no, yeah, in many cases, their fellow, their classmates can do it. That's not to detract from our role, of course. But provided it is a very structured, the guidelines are set, yes, that students can provide feedback to other students. I know if I ask, probably some of you have had positive experiences, some of you have had negative, or it really depends. And the conditions, the circumstances may not always allow this to happen in the, especially if there's a rush to finish, to cover all the material, and it can be difficult to engage engage this process of peer feedback. It's one of those ideals. I don't know if any of you have, I've had very positive experiences. Here, I'd like to hear about them. And it's of course much. It can be time consuming. Yes, it has to be controlled. Yes, yes. But you see, the controlled, that can take a lot of time. That can take almost as much time as correcting all the mistakes on 20 essays, planning that controlled peer feedback session. Okay, so then we just wanted to make sure that was clear, that I don't want us to denigrate ourselves, but I mean, I want to make sure that the role of they have a role to play in this process, as well as, yeah, right. They can, right, on certain aspects. We'll talk about that, yeah, if it's very controlled. Or if the teacher, the instructor begins the process, perhaps by underlining the mistakes, right, yeah. Yeah, focus is a topic we'll return to. Okay, let me move on to my fifth question. The intended beneficiary. Can you all see this? The chat is not interfering with your viewing, is it? I mean, I know what it is under the chat box, but the intended beneficiary. So of course, the intended beneficiary is the student of our feedback. How does he receive it? How does she receive it? Usually. What's the reaction? Positive, negative? Yes. A feedback loop. Yeah, it depends on the student. Yeah. But, at least from my experience, many students, or shall I say, the majority of students, they look at what before they look at the feedback. Darajat, right? That's really the first, Then they may try to understand how they got that grade. Or if they decide to challenge that grade. Yeah. Well, positive and negative. Well, I suppose by definition, when you correct, you're correcting something that it's wrong. You're correcting something, and that is negative. I mean, how you present it, of course, is another matter. But you are saying, in essence, that the person has done something wrong, something, well, not morally wrong, but linguistically wrong. He's made a mistake, an error. So it's wrong. Yeah, that's right. If the grades are fair. But when always there is a grade, when there is the question of a grade, they're more concerned about the grade than they are about the feedback. But they still are concerned about the feedback. Now, if there is no grade, will they even be concerned about the feedback? That's another matter. Okay, right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. If they get full, they don't even read the teacher's comments. Well, I shouldn't say all of them, but most of them don't. And I think if they don't receive full marks, then they may read the comments just in order to challenge the teacher's evaluation. Like, whoa, I lost so many marks, and according to the comments, this is not a very serious mistake. So really? Yeah, really. Yeah, I wish, you see, now I'm going back to my experience in ELIS. With the first draft on Blackboard, we have to give them a grade. We must. So that is that's a suggestion, that there not be a grade on the first draft. Right. But of course, on the second draft, there'd be a grade for the first and the second draft, one grade. I don't know, it's another, but yeah. Yeah, well, some of our students are litigious, like like Americans wanting to sue. Wanting to sue at the drop of the hat. Now, in other countries, there's not that inclination to sue, or maybe the law doesn't allow it. But here, I know the students, yeah, they are litigious when it comes to marks. Yeah, I don't want to overgeneralize. I think I wonder, do they, I spend a lot of time giving feedback, and my hope, and I'm sure most of you give not only the feedback that is required, the minimum, but even more. And maybe our hope is that it's worth something. I mean, we do it because it's our responsibility, and yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a subject of discussion. Um, but most probably, if there were no grade at all, whether it be the first draft, the second draft, or both drafts, most students would pay less attention to the teacher's feedback. I don't know, here again, I'm generalizing, but again, this is from my experience here. And I guess maybe one of the factors that comes into play is the type of feedback, or the how do we, the feedback that we do provide, is it constructive or destructive? And of course, we're supposed to provide constructive feedback, meaningful constructive feedback. And we never intend to provide destructive feedback. But, some students may interpret our feedback in that manner. Right? Yeah. I suppose, we need to know our students, and we need to know, how we need to know their level. We need to know how they will react to our criticism, to our feedback. Of course, I hope that, I mean, even I am sure I have, in my years of being a writing teacher, I'm sure that I have provided some criticism that a student has interpreted as destructive. I wish I hadn't, but I'm sure unintentionally. I don't know, sometimes I get a little bit angry, when I'm correcting the same mistake. Let me just think of something like, here, and it's a little tiny thing, but like, if students don't capitalize I, and sometimes, okay, not at level 1, but if it's like level 4 and they're still not capitalizing I, and I've written, before, and sometimes I get it. Haven't I told you, I write something like, haven't I told you that I should be capitalized? And yeah, really, a student can take that very, negatively. I mean, that could be destructive. I try to, yeah, really monitor my comments, but I mean, I wouldn't say that, but maybe it has happened. Okay. Well, our goal is not to provide. I mean, it's to be constructive. And I'm sure we can recall instances of destructive criticism in our life where, maybe not in learning a language, but even from parents or relatives, and the criticism, maybe it wasn't intended to be, but it had an effect on us. And, it raised the affective filter, and it caused us to be discouraged and decreased our motivation. So, we have to be mindful of that our feedback can be unintentionally destructive. Yeah. Okay, so then we move on to our next question, which I think we've already raised the issue or broached this matter. How do we seek to ensure that the students pay attention to the feedback? And we've spent hours providing it. Pay attention, intiba. What do we do? Yeah, that's a good, yeah, okay. Well, this really goes back to um, constructive or destructive. Yeah, start with the positive and then insert the negative. Right. Yeah, that's a good suggestion, Shadia. Right. Because then the overall the reception of the feedback by the students overall will be positive. And the negative was, yeah, we sandwich it in. Right. Yeah, that's a good, right. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Right. Because, well, the student, I mean, the teacher believes that I have, that I've really, I have great potential as a writer and that the content and the ideas are logical and all of this, but it's a little but. It's not a major but. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. We can, right. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, none of this is an exact science. I mean, it's not like mathematics where we say, okay, 2 plus 2 is 4. You wrote 5. No, you're wrong. Correct it. Okay, halas, that's it, And I'm not going to worry about his or her negative feelings and whether or not he or she will be discouraged from pursuing a career in mathematics. 5 is not the answer. It's 4. Yeah, so yeah, it's language, it's words, it's emotions. Yeah, but yeah, this is a good suggestion. You see here, I mean, I'm learning, what I try to say. Okay, let me think. When I try to raise the matter of grammar, like the amount of grammar mistakes, I try to put it in a context like, okay, student, the content is very good. It's logically ordered. It's related to the topic. This is what even, I mean, a native speaker or even, a learner at a higher level would include this content. But there are some grammar mistakes and they detract from your ideas and you want your ideas to shine. So we have to pay attention. It's like you have a beautiful gift, but the packaging is a bit ugly. So let's work on the packaging. And then we hope, or, that the student remembers, well, the teacher said I had a great gift. Not that my packaging was a little bit ugly. So, of course, coming down here, ensuring that the students pay attention. Of course, what do? We give them grades. And, your guess is as good as mine as to whether, if there were no grade, would they pay attention? I assume that the most highly motivated of students would, but the much less motivated students would not. Maybe as a matter of curiosity, but yeah. How can we know? Can we know if our feedback is effective? Can we do that? Do we really know? I wish we could. Then we'd have some valuable or valid evidence. Yeah, we can see if there is any improvement, right? Or if the student is incorporating the the changes that we've made, is following our advice. If there's any improvement. I suppose, even though, if we had access to like the final writing exams, I mean, you could do mean, you could do a study. You know, you see if the students, if there's been a sort of an evolution in the students' writing from the first writing assignment to the final writing exam. Has there been any forward motion, let's say, progress? I don't know. Sometimes I doubt it. I doubt that there's been any that my feedback's been effective, because you know, most of us we correct the same mistakes. We get frustrated. You know, as I said before, like even something little like, didn't I tell you before that I has to be capitalized? Why are you still? Oh, teacher, you know, I'm not paying attention. But then with other students, I do say, finally, there's a capital I there. This may be a trivial example, but yeah, I suppose in most cases we don't know. We hope for the best, that there has been improvement. I mean, we've done our best, and the student will go on to the next level. And if we haven't been effective, inshallah, the teacher at the next level will be more effective. His feedback may be more, you know, that's, I mean, yeah, I guess that's how it works. Yeah. So really, and now I'd really like to, like, what do you think personally? Is it really worth all the trouble? Is it all in vain? Is it in vain? Like, it's just for nothing. It's just, we do it because we must. And really, it's a losing battle, as we say. It's a losing battle. What do you say, my audience members? Yeah, we just have to do it, right? Yeah, we just have to do it. It's like, who knows? In some cases, it is worth it. In other cases, it's not. Yeah, it has an effect. It doesn't have. It has a slight effect. I don't know. Yeah, it's our responsibility, and do students really do they want us to do it? That's another question. I mean, we do it. We must do it. But you know, I've had students who said, a few students, you know, who say, you know, teacher, you know, I'm going to, I'm just going to, you know, give you a sample of my writing. Can you correct it? It has happened on occasion, and they want that correction. Okay, let's say we don't do it. We do not do it, and we don't get in trouble. It's not, you know, we're not going to be the mudir is not going to, you know, call us into the office and complain that we haven't been doing our job. Let's say we do not do it. It's not a requirement of our job as a writing teacher that we give written feedback. Will the students be upset? Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Because if we don't, they won't really understand why they don't have full marks. And sometimes, even though, however much we try to explain, they still don't really understand, but nonetheless, we have to, yeah, right. But if we don't, if we give no feedback, what will the students say? And let's say there are no grades involved either. They just need to attend class. They just need to attend. They'll get a grade if they attend class, but there are no grades for writing. Do you think they will insist? Yeah, right, Shad. Right. Some of them will say, yeah, that the teacher's not doing his job. Right. The teacher's not teaching. Even though, I mean, let's say we explain like how to write an essay. We go over common mistakes that are made in grammar, but nonetheless, there are no grades. And the students write, but they're not given a grade. Yeah, they will say, or many of them will say, the teacher's not doing that's his job. So not only does the university require us to do it, the students really expect us to do it. They really do, yeah. And it also varies from country to country. I think maybe in the US you might get away with not always correcting. But in my experience has been that a teacher who does not correct, like the reaction from many students is, it's not, this is his or her responsibility. Yeah. Okay. And I just wanted to, yeah, there is some research evidence, as to whether it has an effect, regardless of whether we must or we are expected to, scientifically, is it effective? And just to sum up, it seems that, when we give very direct correction, it can be, it is effective, like for the short term. Like if tomorrow the students are going to have their final writing exam and we give them direct feedback, very focused feedback. Of course, it's sort of like cramming the night before. Yes, that will have a positive effect on their performance in writing the following day. Whether there are long-term effects now, okay, that's more up for debate. But yeah. Okay. Yeah, and of course, we're going to mention that we're going to talk about that it's moving right on. That's one of the subtopics here, the large group. So I think I can go to the next, can I go to the next slide here? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I managed to do it. Okay, I don't know if I wish I had made this a little darker, or so these are now that we've well, you and I have, or mostly I have mentioned, have answered those questions, the basic questions. Now we have some matters, in particular, some specific matters about this whole question of feedback. So really, I've managed to bring them down to 3 of the most that matters that require our attention, or that anyone giving feedback. So it's the quantity, how much. Okay, we've already, we know what feedback is. We know why we provide it. We know who provides it. We know what the expectations are. We know, well, in general, how it's received. So now we're going to focus on the quantity, the type, and how, the manner. These three components of feedback. So really, now this is, Shadia, I guess in particular. Yeah, this is now the quantity of feedback given. So I think this is what you mean, like the quantity of feedback that we give depends on, to a certain extent, depends on the quantity of students in our classrooms. Yes, I think so. Or realistically, it does. And that is a contributing factor. Like if we have 40 students, are we going to really give each one detailed comments? Or are we just going to write, good job, good first attempt, content good, but grammar requires improvement, especially verb tense. Even that may be, to write that 40 times, or to write, just think, if you write 2 sentences 40 times, you have a lot of work. Plus, the individual corrections you make on the paper. So, do we give too much or too little? Well, we have to find the right amount, the golden mean. And what is your, from your experience in your past as a writing teacher, have you given too much or too little? What are you known for? Do students come up to you and say, teacher, why is all this red here? Or, teacher, what did I do wrong here? You didn't underline, or you didn't correct anything, but you said it's, my experience has been, I've given too much. I've evolved, I've reduced, but in the past I did give too much. I did use the red pen to maybe perhaps excessively in certain cases. I've evolved. I don't know. What do you think most teachers give too much or too little, or how much is too much? Again, perhaps it depends on the student. It depends on the level. It depends on the mistake, or the number of mistakes, the complexity of the level. How much? Yeah. Do we correct everything? Now, I remember going back when I first joined the ELI, in the writing pack, the final writing examination, we were supposed to underline, use error codes, and almost every single mistake, grammatical mistake, almost every single one we were supposed to underline or circle, and it was overwhelming. And it was only for our consumption. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, it wasn't for the students. Now we only need to, like the common ones, that are very problematic or repeated. Those are the ones we focus on. But can you imagine how the student will react? Like every time he doesn't Right. Every time he doesn't capitalize the pronoun I, you circle it, or you correct it yourself and you put a big I there. You know? And if he's at a higher level, you know, he might feel like, oh, just like, yeah, it's, I don't know. And I think we err as writing teachers, we err on the side of too much. Most of us are guilty of too much correction. Right. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Joseph. Yeah. Right. If we focus on like some mechanics, like lack of a full stop or lack of a capital letter, you know, we don't see the forest for the trees because, you know, we're focusing on, and then, you know, maybe there are verb tense errors that cause misunderstanding or lack of comprehension that confuse the reader, and they're much more serious. Yeah. So I don't know. Too much, too little, happy medium. Yeah, I don't know. Again, this is not an exact science. I really refrain from. I don't want to, you know, tell you to correct more, to correct less. It depends on the level of the students. It depends on their errors. I mean, as a general rule, I would correct less at a lower level. I would correct more at a higher level. And why? Well, I mean, there's a linguistic reason and there's an emotional reason, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, at level 4 in ELIS, the students will have, by that level, the students will have already been exposed to many more grammar structures. So, I mean, they can be held accountable. And, you know, they've been learning the language for much longer, and they have more confidence in themselves. So, you know, if they see a little more red, they're not going to just throw their hands up and cry and yeah. I don't think. Whereas if they're in level 1, you know, seeing their first, I mean, maybe they've written a few sentences, not even almost a paragraph, and the red is just the red ink is just it's much more discouraging then in that case. Yeah. Yeah, I think it really has, yeah. I think the level and also, I mean, if we can get to know our students and how they will receive, I mean, there are those students who say, I don't care, you know, you show me what's wrong. I mean, you're the teacher. Okay, just show me. I don't care. I'm not, you know, I'm 20 years old. I'm not going to start to cry. Yeah, there are those students. So go to work. But the other students at level 1, and, you know, like a student who's very reluctant to write, you know, and who requires so much, you know, even if you give them a short writing assignment in class, and he just sits there and requires encouragement. I mean, you can see that, you know, if you focus too much on the mistakes he's made, it's going to not have a positive effect. So, okay, really, I don't know. We've exhausted that the matter of the quantity. I don't know. I don't presume to tell you to give more, to give less. It's your students. We must give. it's our job, and it's our responsibility, our moral responsibility, our professional responsibility, and it's the student's expectation. Really, yeah. That's what a teacher does. The quantity is your discretion, how much time you have, how many students you have, provided that it's balanced between the positive and the negative, and you, as best you can, you take into consideration these other factors of the affective factors and all of that. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I think I have encountered some teachers who, not in Saudi Arabia, but in America, who gave very few corrections because they had this. I mean, it's part of their ideology that that students would learn, but they didn't learn from this explicit correction. They would learn eventually, and this was a very, providing written corrective feedback was very negative. It was sort of like hitting a child, like, smacking a child. Oh, you did that? No. You did something wrong. Bad boy, bad girl. I know there are teachers, instructors who have a negative opinion of the provision of providing written feedback, and maybe it's because other teachers emphasize the negative side of it, but there are two sides, and just as you can, right, you can, if your child does something naughty, you can hit him or her, or you can provide corrective feedback in another manner. I mean, of course, it is your responsibility to correct that negative behavior as a parent. And really, yeah, it is our responsibility to correct the negative linguistic behavior, if I could call it that. But, how we do it, how much we do it. Do we hit our student figuratively, like, that's wrong. What's wrong with you? Why can't you capitalize the pronoun I? That's the figurative version of correct. I mean, of the smack. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. I mean, we give this feedback. We determine how much we give, all of these factors. And of course, one of the major factors is the number of students we have, of course, not to neglect that. The level of students, I've already brought this up in let me see. Yeah, I say it's a determining factor. Now, you have to know your students, and you have to know their true level. And of course, you need to know the level, like, according to the standards. Now, if you're teaching level 1 and a student makes a mistake with an if clause, of course, I mean, are you going to correct it? Don't bother. He hasn't even learned if clauses. First conditional, maybe second conditional, no. Don't even go there. If you understand, I mean, even if I'm speaking, if I say, in English, if I am a monster, I kill you. I mean, the grammar is horrendous, but a native speaker of English understands. So just let it go. At level 1, don't even bother. I mean, if there's no verb be at level 1, of course, if I monster, I mean, or I teacher, I student. Okay, yeah, it's level 1. Yeah, it's the level of the student. And also, when we know the level of the student and his real level, then we avoid overwhelming him or her. Because, our level 1 students, we won't correct second conditional sentence errors. I mean, that's needlessly overwhelming the student. He can't be expected. I mean, we haven't even exposed him to that grammar structure yet. So, yeah, I mean, it's know thy students, know your students. And then, know their real level, like giving them some kind of writing diagnosis at the beginning. Or is their writing really level 3 ELIS science students academic track? Is their writing really ELIA or whichever track they are in? Is that their true level? I mean, the feedback that you provide them, you may assume, they're level 3. So I won't have to correct, I won't have to provide a certain kind of feedback because according to the curriculum, they have already mastered this structure. But one never knows. So if there is some type of diagnosis, writing diagnosis at the beginning, then you'll be better prepared and you'll know, well, I can't limit my feedback to the feedback that a level 3 writing, a level 3 ELIS writing teacher typically provides. Now, again, for the type, what kind of feedback do you, is it explicit or implicit? How do you do this? Now, remember I mentioned that going back, well, it wasn't even for the students. When we used to circle every single grammar mistake on the final writing examination. Really, I suppose it was in order to justify the grade. So if the student challenged it, we'll say, look, do you see all this red? That's why you got it. But, what do you do? Again, it's not an exact science. Do you underline the mistake and write the correct version above it? Do you just underline the mistake? Do you underline the mistake and provide a clue as to what might the problem be? How do we, okay, we've diagnosed the error. Now, how do we treat it? What is our treatment? Do we, and do we engage the learner, the patient in this process? We're the EFL, 9 o'clock. I hope we can finish. Am I blobbing too much? Really? I thought it was, really? I thought I didn't even have enough. Yeah. Well, I do have the other the other slides really, or one slide really focuses on a particular level here at the ELI. But yeah, these are the more important matters. Let me just go over this with the feedback. Yeah. Shaida says, yeah, underline and give the correct answer. That's, many of us do that. Now we just underline and okay. So then when the student receives the paperback, he knows he substitutes the correct answer for the incorrect answer. But, this is a bit passive. Does he, you see, there is a problem with this in that it's not that, it doesn't engage him or her. I do it, most of us do this, but is this always the best way to proceed? Maybe it's the simplest. Are there other ways? Well, how else can we provide this feedback? Besides just circling, I goad. Oh, goad is wrong. G-O-E-D. Circle. W-E-N-T. And then when the student revises, he substitutes went for goad. Of course, what you can do, you can put verb, right? Verb tense. Refer to the textbook. Yeah. And you can put verb. You can, of course, circle it, draw the student's attention to it, and then put verb. But of course, provided the student knows what a verb is, this can be problematic. If you use jargon like subject, verb, order, or preposition. I mean, does the student know these grammatical terms? And is it necessary that he know them or she know them? I don't, be careful with them. So this is one question. What kind of feedback under the heading, the type? Is it, how explicit does it need to be? Again, at a lower level, it needs to be more explicit. At a higher level, it can be more indirect in general. And focused, unfocused. Do we focus on certain mistakes? Ones that are frequently appear, or do we just all of them? All of them. Again, level comes into play. We're not going to focus on, we're only going to focus on the mistakes for which a student can be held responsible at his level, right? I mean, it's useless to underline second conditional statements in a level 1 essay or even a paragraph, and then, okay, let me speed up as best I can. The feedback, when we give it, what is our priority? Is our priority going to be the mechanics, or like the meat of the matter? What the student has written or how he has written it? Personally, I tend, as the level increases, I tend to focus more on the structure and less on the mechanics. Again, it depends. And, is this like, what's the purpose? What is the priority? Is it writing an essay that has each paragraph of which has a topic sentence. The ideas are coherent. They're, there's logic. The ideas are relevant. Then mechanics takes a back seat. Is of lesser priority. At a lower level, when a student can't be expected to write a 4-paragraph essay, each with a topic sentence, yeah, of course, mechanics like not capitalizing the pronoun I seems to take more priority. And this is, this is subjective. It really is. It depends on the teachers. I've had, I've said this, and I even tell this to the students, like says, well, some teachers really give more attention to the grammar. And that's maybe why the overall grade is lower. Whereas some teachers give more attention to the content and the organization, and they give less attention to, even though there is a rubric, nonetheless, there is this element of subjectivity. And, some teachers, they really, grammar mistakes are just, they make them see red and they make them use red, and then they make them grade students accordingly. And then finally here, how do we provide it? Individually or collectively? Well, if we do it with one student, what's the best way to do it? Of course, we all do it, either in comments, in the comments box on Blackboard. If the essay or the writing is done by hand, we give the feedback individually. Well, individually, but in written form. Now, collectively, how can we do that effectively, collectively? We get all of the students together. I know you do it as well as I do, right? We make a collection of their mistakes, of their most frequent mistakes, and put them on the whiteboard and say, okay, here's what went wrong, let's correct it, right? It's more fun. Of course, we don't identify who was the culprit, and then but yeah, of course, we do it both ways. Doing it collectively in class requires time, of course, and yeah. So, okay, let's move on to the next slide and do it in. Okay, now really, this is not feedback providing written. This is in particular some reflections on writing feedback from my experience the last 2 semesters. And I don't know other teachers in other who have other students on other tracks or who are in other departments. You see, what we've done, we've had 2 or 3 writing assignments, and they've been on Blackboard. The topic is assigned, and the students write on Blackboard. The teachers go and call it up, and then they give a grade, and then there's a box, and then they make some comments. And it's good to make comments, like general comments, but if you have to, you can't possibly make a list of all the grammar mistakes that the student has made in that particular essay. It's just just for there might be a way, I don't know, for teachers to really correct in a more intensive manner. But you see, there's a first version and a second version, but at this point, we can't really compare to see if the students have actually made the corrections and responded in a written way to our comments. We can't see that. So we really, I've asked students to underline or highlight the corrections or the revised portions. Some students do it, some students don't. And that's problematic. I don't think it's satisfactory. So this is really my personal appraisal of writing in at the ELIS level, the higher levels of ELIS. And let me move on to the next, was it the last slide, I think? No. I was talking about the ideal scenario. Wait, one more, go back. One more. Here it is, the ideal scenario. Here. This is like everyone's dream, every writing teacher's dream. I said writing at ELIS level 3 is not my dream, but here it is. Students are motivated, not just by darajat, right? They really do want to improve their writing. They are personally motivated. Instructors are not overwhelmed. And what does that mean? Well, we don't have 50 essays to grade in 2 days. We have a reasonable amount, a reasonable number of essays, so that we can give feedback that is meaningful, and that this feedback should be tailored to the level. And of course, it's feedback that they can understand, and constructive, not destructive. It's not spoon-fed. So, we don't always just circle the problem area and make the correction. And the student has nothing to do, just to substitute. The feedback is focused. Yeah. And this is a collaborative process. Between us and them. And yeah, sometimes, we have to ask them, like, what do you mean here? So, and also, if we do this in the classroom, collectively, or have students work with each other after we've set the boundaries, perhaps after we've underlined at least all of the mistakes, and then students exchange papers, or they work with each other after we've set the stage, as it were. And then we'll go to the last. Yeah, time management is one of my problems. It's not correcting. It's not providing written feedback. It's time management. That's one of my problems in life. And let's go to the last. Is that the last? Yeah. Okay, we're a little bit over then. It's all right. The last slide is, no, oh, that's the reference. Oh, here it is. This is what I would love to do. In particular ELIS, but at King Abdulaziz University, English language, English Institute. Yeah, I would love to have writing conferences with each student to be able to do this. 5 to 10 minutes each module at least once. If I have 20 students, it is conceivable. If I have 40 students, no. And that there be a writing assignment other than the final writing assignment in class that the students do on paper. Because once, you know, it's a foregone conclusion. If they do it on Blackboard at home, they will, many of them will either plagiarize or have their brother, their sister, their father, their mother help them. It's, you know, because there's a grade involved. Only if they are in the classroom, their phones are turned off, they're not allowed to consult to use Google Translate, then we will have a reliable diagnostic. And we will then, like from there, that's the point of departure. And then at some point during the module, have a writing conference with each and every one of our students. I'd love to. I've tried, but then part of the curriculum has to fall by the wayside. And then finally on the last slide, there's a reference. I mean, I listened to, it really, this is an excellent a YouTube video. And I mean, she's an expert. I mean, so if you want, you know, to consult the expert, don't consult me, consult her. And, you know, she uses I mean, she's presented it in a way that's very, the whole issue of providing written feedback and the pros and the cons and, you know, the debate over its value, its validity, and the expectations of administration, the expectations of students, and our own personal responsibility, and then how we do it. You know, I mean, it's, this is, I cannot recommend this more. I mean, I've took some from it, but not, you know, most of what I've been rambling on about is my own experience as a writing teacher. So, okay. I don't know, shukran, jazilan, if anyone else.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wayne, for this wonderful workshop and for sharing your experience when it comes to providing feedback on student writing. We really enjoyed it. We really learned a lot from your long experience, 25-year experience. So it's full of practices and you know, full of practices. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I mean,
thank you so much, and
the greatest problem I had was with Zoom, not with giving written feedback is much easier than setting up a Zoom session. So
never mind. It happens. Yeah, it happens. So yeah, thank you all. I shared with you 3 links. The first one is the evaluation form. Please complete the evaluation form, and inshallah also the certificate within 24 hours, inshallah. And the recording of this workshop will be uploaded, inshallah, into our YouTube channel again within 24 hours. And I don't know if we can take 1 or 2 questions or If you would like to ask questions or comments or suggestions, please open your mic or post it here in the chat. And inshallah, expect an email from us asking you about satisfaction survey about the writing center, inshallah. The survey will be sent within a couple of days, inshallah. And we look forward to hearing your feedback, your suggestions, and your recommendation to improve our services and the academic writing center. So thank you again. Thank you all. I'll stay for a couple minutes and we'll see, inshallah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it seems that there are no comments or questions. So we reached to the end of today's workshop, and this is the last workshop. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this is our last workshop in this semester, and inshallah, we will have more workshops in the coming semester in summer or starting of next year. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Wayne, and thank you for attending the workshop. Happy Ramadan to all, and I wish you all the best and have a good night. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.